Hey guys, welcome back to Kevin Wilson SBC. I'm real excited to share with you three very successful runs yesterday at South Carolina Motorplex. First of all, let me just say the track was a very heavy radial prep. And I had a great time yesterday with Don Keller in his 2015 Hellcat. I'm going to do a separate video on that Hellcat with independent rear suspension and Mintzer John Reed shocks and coilovers all the way around, and you do not want to miss that video. My goodness, how those Mintzer shocks made a huge difference on that Hellcat. Anyways, that's a separate video. The Hellcat was on radials. My point is, every car at the track yesterday on radials was loving the track. There was a few of us big tire cars out there doing some testing, and a big tire slick car on a very heavy radial prep track, well, that's a challenge. So I knew coming into the day it was going to be a challenge. But I have three runs that I want to walk you through. This first run that I'm going to show you is exactly how we finished at Darlington last Saturday week ago. And that's when we ran our 496, our current PB at that time. So everything is exactly the same exact Fuel Tech tune, same exact air pressure, shock settings, 4-link, front suspension, everything's the same. I'm 3 pounds lighter. That's about it from last Saturday to now, about two and a half pounds lighter. All right, so we're going to take a look at this, and we're at right at 9 pounds of air pressure, same rebound, same compression settings. And we're going to come out here and launch it at 4,500, and we're going to see what happens. Let's take a look at the run now, and then we'll talk about it when the run is over. Okay, here's the time slip of run number one. You can definitely see, looking at the launch, that the car was chattering the tires really hard. It shook me really hard around the 30-foot mark, to the point I was getting ready to lift, and then it kind of drove through it. So on this run, everything is the same from Darlington. You can see we ran a 1:12.60 foot time, a 3:21 short time, and a 4:95 with a 1 at 139.59. Now on this run, I did feel like the 1-2 shift was a little too far out. I could feel the car not responding well on that 7,800 RPM shift. So we're going to talk about that for run two. Right off the trailer, we did have some issues with our MSD rotor. I'll go over that more towards the end of this video, and please hang on and watch this. If you run an MSD distributor, like I'm running, I really want to know if you guys are having the same issue with melting and tearing up the rotor button. But anyways, we'll get to that at the end of the video. So run number one. Now, what did we do for run number two? I knew we were going to have to add air. And so here's what we did. We went from 9 pounds of air to 9.5 pounds of air in both rear slicks. And for run number two, I took the launch RPM from 4,500 to 5,000, and I added 1 click tighter compression on both rear shocks. So we were at 8 from full tight. Now we're at 7 from full tight. I probably could have went to 6 from full tight, but I was just trying to see if we can, how consistent we can get the car running. Also, at South Carolina Motorplex, we did slow the blower down. So I went back to my 50-tooth pulley, which is 15% overdriven on this car. And as you can tell, the air was a little better yesterday. We were around 780 density altitude yesterday, whereas week before at Darlington, we were around 1,800 density altitude. So if you think about that, running a 496 at 1,800 feet was not bad at all. The car is still only making 22 pounds of boost, but by slowing the blower pulley down, we made the same boost as the 48-tooth pulley, but I do believe it was more efficient in creating less heat. Now, let's go take a look at run number two with the changes I mentioned, and I dropped the shift point from 7,800 to 7,600, and let's see how that impacts the ET, especially the miles per hour. So let's take a look at run number two. Okay, here's the ET slip for run number two. The car did not chatter the tires as bad. I still had a little shake, but nothing like run number one. And we went from a 112 360 foot to a 113 360 foot. And our short time went from a 321 with a 2 to a 323 0. But take a look at the mile per hour. So we went up from 139 to 141 miles per hour, and that was all because of a 200 RPM shift difference. The car just wanted that 7,600 RPM shift yesterday versus the 7,800 RPM shift it was loving at Darlington the week before. So we backed up our 495 with another 495, and I was like, okay, you know, let's talk about run number three. We took a little longer before we did run number three because even though it was, let's see, it was almost 2:38 p.m. was the first run, 3:36 p.m. was the second run. That was an hour. I don't have a transmission cooler external cooler. Of course, I have a cooler mounted in the trunk, but I don't have a way to circulate my transmission fluid and cool the transmission fluid down. I can run the water pumps and I can run the radiator fan and help cool the water off, but really an hour is a little quick turnaround with the kind of heat that you put in a transmission. So after run number 2, the transmission fluid was getting a little warmer than I like, and we intentionally waited knowing that the third run was likely going to be our last run. We really wanted to wait and give everything a chance to cool off. I opened up the valve cover breathers, got the motor cooled down, and just let the transmission come back down to temperature. So let's take a look at run number 3, but what did I change? All right, so for run number 3, I wanted to see if I can get back the 112 60 foot or even a 111 60 foot. So I went back down to 4,500 on the shift, on the two-step, and I kept the shift at 7,600. So the difference between run 1 and run 3 is the shift point come down 200 RPM to 7,600 RPMs, and I took the air pressure up to 10 pounds. I'm trying everything I can to walk a fine line with air pressure on this big tire slick. Too much air pressure, then you start jeopardizing traction on the top end, and you don't want to lose control of the rear end at 140 miles an hour. So I went up to 10 pounds of air pressure. I stayed at 7 clicks of compression on the shocks, brought the launch back down to 4,500, and let's see if we can get through the tire shake and better our 60 foot. So let's take a look at the third run where we did our changes. Okay, so here's the time slip of the third run. As you can see, we are back into 112 60 foot, and we got our 330 back some to a 322, which is better than the previous run, which was a 323. And we ran a 495 with a 3, and we were back in the 140 mile an hour zone because of the little quicker shift. So you can see from these 3 passes on a very tight radio prep track, we were still able to get the car launched safely. The car is going straighter. We put an 1/8 inch rear steer, more rear steer in the car than we had at Darlington, and that's helping the car a lot. I do need to bring the left rear of the car down a little bit. The car is still sitting a little too high on the left rear with me in it, and some of these videos from other perspectives is really kind of showing that the left rear of the car is a little high with me sitting in it, and I need to bring that chassis side down a little bit to equal that out. Huge shout out to Don Keller and some of his friends for supplying some other video content for each of these 3 runs. I really appreciate these guys, and I had a great time helping them with their Hellcat yesterday. Now, let me show you some pictures and some struggles we had with the MSD rotor yesterday, and I'm really hoping some of you guys have had some of the same experiences. I would love to learn what your thoughts are, what your opinions are, especially if you've had the same situation. It would be really nice to hear from you. Okay, let's go over the issue I had with the MSD ignition, just warming the car up in the pits yesterday. So one of the things I normally do is we jack the rear end up, crank the car up, let the rear end spin, reverse, first, high gear, get the transmission warmed up, get the rear end warmed up. We're doing that yesterday just like normal, and about 2 minutes into the warm-up, car spits, sputters, and cuts off and would not crank. And I knew immediately, I mean, it acted like the car had jumped time, almost like it just lost its timing chain or jumped the gear or something crazy like that. We are running a timing chain. We're not running a gear drive or belt yet. So at that point, we went ahead and pulled the MSD cap off, and here's what we had. I will do a better picture. This is MSD distributor rotor part number 8567, MSD part number 8567, and the rotor literally melted, and the tip of the rotor bent over. And of course it was now out of time at that point, and not a very good situation. Literally the red plastic is totally melted, and whenever that plastic melted, I guess the force of this rotor button coming by the cap and sending its arc, it just twisted it. I do not see any evidence where the rotor tip struck any part of the cap. I can't see where any damage is done to the cap, and I don't understand why this is happening. I always check the torque of that star, that double square screw in the center there, and it was tight before it was installed. This was a brand new rotor cap that we installed Saturday morning before we left the shop. And I don't understand why this is happening. So I will be getting in touch with MSD tomorrow and talking through this. We are running a 16-volt battery, and at idle it was 16.4 volts going down the track. With the alternator set, it is putting out 16.7 volts going down the run. And I had one spare rotor yesterday and put it in, and it acted fine all day. That rotor never did what this one did, but this is not the first time I've had this issue with these rotors. Every now and then something will happen, it will melt, and the rotor will get bent over. So if any of you guys have experience with this, or you've ran into this, please let me know. I have grounds on the engine block. I have a ground from the negative of the battery to the back of the cylinder head, and I have both cylinder heads tied together with a pretty good sized ground wire. So the heads are grounded, the block is grounded, everything is grounded. My MSD Digital 8 is grounded from the capacitor to the battery negative. The positive is ran to the positive side of the safety switch. I do want that ignition to go off if the external switch is turned off. But I have the right grounds, I have clean grounds, I have dirty grounds. My chassis is the dirty ground, my clean grounds go directly to the negative side of the battery. Not sure why this is happening. Please let me know. Hey, let me just say this. I appreciate y'all's response to the videos, and I look forward to putting a video out on the lime green Hellcat of Don, so you guys stay tuned for that for all you independent rear suspension guys out there. But just remember, we're trying to do three things. We want to go fast, we want to go straight, and we want to be safe. Thank you guys.
Tu, 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 tu.